Hi, I'm Cheryl Chiw. I'm an interdisciplinary artist. Basically, I sculpt, I create installations, video art, as well as AR experiences. The materials I work with are generally detritus, metal and iron oxide. And I'm particularly interested in weathered surfaces. So basically for my show, I titled it Borrowed Earth. So it considers our borrowed existence, the time, the space and the elements. So I see it as a journey, that oscillates between form and formlessness, and also how, seemingly impervious materials can disintegrate over time and return back to Earth. I try to keep, when I work, as close to my practice as possible. So even when I'm exhibiting in this space, because I'm interested in precariousness and imbalance, and how tension is created between surface and forms. So even in placing the works, I try to consider all these elements in my practice. For the exhibition, there are 3 parts to it. And I work with the material as a whole, like with the constructed sheets, so they are a bit more geometric in form. And then there are the series of works, which are the elemental sculptures, where I collect pieces over time, over place, even when I travel. And then I like to piece them together. And then I like to see how, when I put different materials together from different places, they kind of start to connect and become like one. I think because of the nature of my materials, they are pretty heavy, and then issues with storage, transportation, and weight. So what I generally try to do is, when I think of pieces of work that I want to make, I keep it below 22 kg, something that I can lift by myself, something I can move. And also in terms of storage, so instead of floor space, I try to store them vertically in my home. So like for instance, the upside down, side up work, again, I think the idea of stacking stones is prevalent in many cultures. And for me, it's not just about stacking. So when I'm stacking, I'm actually sculpting at the same time. And I feel that sometimes if I'm not in the right frame of mind, I'm not calm or I'm like stressed or something, I find it very hard to balance. So it does require that kind of state of mind as well when I'm doing the balancing. And also some of the sculptures that I have, or the pieces of that I find, sometimes I collect them over a period of time. Maybe I don't do anything with it. But if I come across 2 pieces, they may be from different regions, very diverse regions, but if they work together, then I put them together and sculpt from there. One of the works in this show, which is Truth Inconvenient. This one, I had it, but of course the pieces, the saga seats for instance, is added. Okay, the interesting thing about that piece was I only originally had 3 or 4 pieces of saga seats. Right, so the saga seats are something that we probably can identify with. Yes. Because in the olden days, your parents will tell you don't eat the seeds because you'll lose your voice. So I decided to sculpt it with the Pinocchio found object. It's a magnetic, the fridge magnet. And what happened was, when I put it here, one of the viewers who came, as she was walking along here to the show, she found a few of the seats, in the women barracks itself. And then she decided to, here, let me put some here. And then she just started to disperse a few of the more seats in the space. So I thought, oh, that's great. Yeah, you just added to my work. Yeah, so I find it's really interesting. I mean, it's quite fun also for the viewers when they come and see the works, to have that kind of connection and to even just add something to it. So actually I started exploring AR in 2020 because we're in lockdown. We couldn't go anywhere, and what I did was I recreated one of my sculptures. So my sculptures are pretty heavy, they're close to like 60 kg or so. There's like metal plate and lots of metal pieces on it. And then it dawned on me, like, okay, instead of just a heavy metal piece, what if I could just make an AR version of my sculpture and take it out for a spin with me, and literally going out to places and placing it against architectures or space. So for this exhibition, I tried to extend it further, because like when I was in the space, like for in Japan, some of these rocks or stones has been in existence for the longest time, like ancient, and I felt that it was not right for me to take them. So how do I make my works in that sense? So transitioning to doing AR. So what I did was making the scans of the stones and putting it in this space, and digitalizing it, so translating from physical to digital. I was a bit apprehensive about making AR works, because I know it's a technology that's quite new, it's quite contemporary and all that, but I didn't embark on it until I felt that there was a reason for it, because I really wanted to capture the essence of the material. And then somehow how the stones, which is generally like something that's heavy and weighted, somehow when I place it in this space, it becomes weightless, how that changes. And I think a lot of the people who came, they were quite mesmerized by it, to see stones floating in mid-air in the space. And I think it's a great use of the space. I know that maybe the older generation, some people are quite adverse to digital works, but I was quite impressed that actually they were very receptive to it. And they were really taking the devices and going round and round, and they felt that they were transported to that place. Yeah, so much so that they even wanted to leave me a note to tell me, oh, they really enjoyed it so much. They even caressed my face and say, oh, thank you and all that. So it was really, really nice. And then these are aspects as an artist we don't consider, right? And especially with digital works, I think there's a lot of testing that's required, and because with the digital, it's still quite finicky, it's still quite new as well. And it allowed me, like, each time how I can improve. So I'm actually using the space and also being here to observe the viewers as they come in, how they experience the work. And these are things, infos that I can collect and see that how I can improve, like next time round if I want to show it. I think for the show, I was also trying to bring awareness to what is around us, the nature, whether it's by nature or whether it's manufactured. I'm also looking at how sometimes there's not so much the artist needs to do, but actually to be present and to be aware of being present in that space. How, like a beautiful landscape itself, I try to capture it and not having to force myself with the works, or even like with the front pieces, with the constructed pieces, where I just make simple gestures of like a curve and sitting it on the ground, and letting the material and the essence of the material come to fore. Or like for instance with some of the stoneworks which I did when I was in Japan, rather than what I usually do by collecting the materials and bringing it back with me, I wanted to capture the essence of it in a digital form, so I don't have to physically bring it back with me and just bring the digital copy of it. Yeah, and placing it in the space. So in a way, it's interesting to find, how it's translated from a physical piece to something that's digital, and that by that translation, how it actually changes. I mean, how much is lost, right? When I'm scanning it or taking a digital copy of it, how much is gained, right? And how much remains in that transition. I mean, essentially for the show, I mean, there's this line that I would think about, and I hope for the audience to see is, to look beyond seeing, right? Like the poignancy, of our shared existence, how everything, maybe from different places, but when you put it together, it somehow comes together and connects. And I also like the idea that sometimes when I make my pieces of work, I may have certain ideas, of what I intend the pieces to be, and I thought it was also interesting when viewers come, they bring their own experience with them, and when they see the works, they have different interpretations of it. So it kind of opens up the perspective as well for the works and how they view it. Okay. So in my practice, I explore precariousness, balance, and also the tension between surface and form. And I work with materials such as detritus and invisible forces such as magnetism and gravity. So I do put gravity on my label as a material, yeah, because that is what is actually holding the works in its place. think it was interesting because the first time when I exhibited at Hearth, there was a lot of things I did not consider. I mean, first, okay, the selling aspect of my work, and also because of the nature of my work, everything is holding in balance. So I use materials like magnetism and gravity. I had to consider, and I had to think of how I could resolve that, right? Like if someone is interested to buy, how do I resolve that issue, which I have been able to. And in the previous exhibition, I did show a work with AR. But what I did was I only shared like the AR experience for Singapore Art Week. When that work was shown with the asset given, I was not in that space to observe. But at Hearth, I could do that, right? And then I had feedback from the audience viewers who came and said, oh, it would be nice if we could try out the asset themselves. So that's why for this show, I wanted to explore that further. I know that with digital works, it's very tricky. I mean, a lot of time people may not want to try it out because there's a lot of things that can go wrong, right? Like whether the internet is not good, you can't find the placement and stuff like that. But I thought it's a good place to try because you have a great space. You know, you got a high ceiling and all that. And also because I wanted to see how that translation happens there with the video that's being screened on the wall and versus the AR objects in the space itself. So then viewers can also scan the works and place it and move around it just with their bodily gestures, how it changes. You know, there's a bit of participatory involved, yeah, and how they can view the works in a very different way, more interactive way. A lot of people would say that being an artist is not very sustainable. So first, to have a place that you can exhibit your works for free is really good, and the fact that we can sell the pieces. And then I have to consider that how do I sell the pieces, right? And so these were things that I could work out from the first show, you know, how do I resolve issues like that? So for me, because when I place the works, they're all in balance, but when I sell the pieces, I could fix it permanently for the buyers. And I also felt that was interesting to be in the space when I speak to the buyer. They like the concept, they like the idea of how I evolve my materials, it changes over, you know, time and space and all that. But they like also that, oh, okay, then I have to be in consultation with them that when you want to buy the works, how do I fix it for you? So there was someone who came in and said, okay, if you can find a place in my building, you know, I can get the work. So that's also something they explore, and then I can just, you know, find a space, I can recite the works, and then I fix it for them at the point of time.